The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden light over the park. Dry leaves danced in the breeze, scattering across the ground like a whispered song of autumn. Laughter rang out as children swung high and raced down slides, their carefree joy a stark contrast to the stillness of an 8-year-old boy sitting alone. Noah's wheelchair rested by the edge of the playground, far from the noise and movement. His thin frame seemed swallowed by the oversized plaid jacket he wore, and his once curious green eyes stared blankly at the ground. The world around him felt distant, muffled, as though he were trapped in a glass bubble. His parents, Emily and Daniel, watched from a bench nearby. Emily's hands fidgeted with the hem of her sweater, her worry etched into every line of her face. "Noah," she called out gently, her voice laced with hope. "Do you want to go see the swings? You used to love them." Noah didn't respond. He adjusted the wheels of his chair slightly, his face as unreadable as stone. Daniel sighed and ran a hand through his hair, crossing his arms tightly to contain the frustration and helplessness swirling inside him. Then a sudden bark pierced the air, a sound so sharp and unexpected that it froze everyone in place. A golden retriever burst onto the scene, her fur glowing as if she carried the sun's last rays with her. She ignored the children who reached out to pet her. Her focus laser-sharp as she darted through the park. Noah noticed her first, his dull eyes flickering with something faintly resembling curiosity. The dog bounded toward him, stopping a few feet away. She barked again, persistent and deliberate, her gaze fixed on him with an intensity that felt almost human. "Noah, don't move!" Daniel shouted, springing to his feet. Emily rushed forward, shielding her son. But the dog didn't back away. Her eyes locked onto Noah's, filled with an emotion no one could name, something between urgency and desperation. "What does she want?" Noah whispered, his voice cracking under the weight of his confusion. Against his better judgment, he reached out with trembling fingers. The dog fell silent, her ears flattening as if she had been waiting for this exact moment. The world seemed to pause, the bustling park fading into silence. Something in the dog's gaze told Noah that she wasn't just a stray. She had a purpose, and somehow it was tied to him. The golden retriever, whom Emily hesitantly named Luna after the faint crescent-shaped marking on her ear, refused to leave. Her focus remained unwavering, her gaze darting between Noah and the path leading away from the park. She barked again, softer this time, almost pleading. "Noah," Emily said, her voice tight with unease. "I think she wants us to follow her." Daniel scoffed, crossing his arms. "It's just a dog, Emily. Probably someone's pet. We should call animal control." But Noah's small voice interrupted, carrying an unusual determination. "No, Dad. She's not just a dog. Look at her." His eyes, dulled by months of despair, now gleamed with a spark of curiosity. Emily knelt by Luna, placing a cautious hand on her golden fur. "She's different," she murmured, her fingers brushing against the faint crescent mark. "Maybe we should follow her, just for a little while." Reluctantly, Daniel sighed and helped Noah adjust in his wheelchair. Together, the family followed Luna, who trotted ahead with a determined grace. The air grew cooler as they left the park and entered a wooded area nearby, the laughter of children fading behind them. The path became narrower, the crunch of leaves underfoot the only sound. Luna paused occasionally, looking back to ensure they were still following. Noah gripped the edges of his wheelchair tightly, a mix of fear and exhilaration swirling in his chest. "Where is she taking us?" Daniel muttered, glancing nervously at the dense trees. Before anyone could answer, Luna stopped abruptly at an old wooden bench partially buried under fallen leaves. Her paws began digging into the earth beneath it, the dirt flying in all directions. The family exchanged puzzled glances. "What's she doing now?" Daniel asked, his skepticism turning to irritation. "Wait," Noah said, leaning forward. His voice, usually timid, carried a strange certainty. "Let her finish." After a few moments of frantic digging, something began to emerge from the soil. A small wooden box, weathered by time and covered in moss. Luna stepped back, sitting quietly as if her task was complete. Emily reached out, brushing away the dirt and leaves. Her breath hitched as she opened the box. Inside was a tarnished golden pendant and a faded photograph of a woman holding a baby. "That's," Emily's voice trembled. "That's Rachel?" "Rachel?" Noah asked, his brow furrowing. "Who's Rachel?" Emily clutched the box to her chest, her face pale. "She's my sister." The revelation hung in the air, heavy and confusing. Luna barked softly as if urging them onward. Whatever this was, it was only the beginning. The golden pendant glimmered faintly in Emily's trembling hands as she stared at the photograph. The faded edges and muted colors could not obscure the familiarity of the woman's face. Her sister, Rachel, smiled back at her, holding a baby wrapped in a soft blanket. "That's your sister?" Daniel asked, his voice breaking the silence. He looked between Emily and the photo, his brows furrowed. "You never told me you had a sister." Emily hesitated, her throat tightening. "I haven't spoken about her in years. Rachel disappeared when I was younger. We lost touch. I thought she was gone for good." Her voice cracked, and she pressed the box to her chest as though it could shield her from the weight of the memories rushing back. Noah's eyes widened, his curiosity now a burning fire. "What happened to her, Mom? Why haven't I heard about her before?" Emily knelt beside her son, her hand brushing his cheek. "Because I thought I'd never see anything of hers again," she said softly, glancing at the pendant and photograph. "Rachel left without warning one day. No notes, no calls. I thought she wanted to start over, away from us, but now." She looked down at the box, her voice trailing off. "This changes everything." Luna barked again, sharper this time, as if demanding their attention. The dog rose and began trotting away from the bench, her tail swishing purposefully. She turned to look at them, her eyes urging them to follow. "She's not done yet," Noah whispered. Without waiting for his parents' approval, he adjusted his chair's wheels, ready to follow Luna. Daniel rubbed his temples. "This is getting ridiculous. It's a stray dog with a buried box, not a treasure map." But Emily, her heart pounding with equal parts fear and hope, shook her head. "No, she knows something. This can't be a coincidence, Daniel." Reluctantly, Daniel pushed Noah's wheelchair, and the family followed Luna deeper into the wooded area. The path narrowed, the trees casting long shadows as the sun dipped lower in the sky. Every step was heavy with tension, as though they were walking into the unknown. Finally, Luna stopped at an old tree, its trunk gnarled and roots sprawling outward like ancient hands. She began digging once more, her barks growing insistent. This time, she unearthed something larger. A leather-bound journal, worn by time but surprisingly intact. Emily picked it up carefully, her fingers trembling as she turned the cover. Written in faint, elegant handwriting were the words, "Rachel's Journey." A gasp escaped Emily's lips as she opened the journal. The first page held a single line, "For Emily and Noah, when the time is right." The family stared in stunned silence. Luna sat beside Noah, her head resting on his lap as though comforting him. "What does this mean?" Noah asked, his voice shaking. "Why would she leave this for us?" Emily flipped through the pages, scanning sketches of Luna as a puppy, cryptic notes about a journey, and fragments of Rachel's thoughts. Each word pulled her deeper into a mystery she didn't even know existed. "Rachel wanted us to find this," Emily murmured, her voice barely audible. "She wanted us to know the truth." Daniel frowned, his skepticism softening into confusion. "But why now? Why would she leave it buried here? And how does this dog know where to find it?" Emily looked at Luna, whose watchful eyes seemed to hold answers no one could understand. "I don't know," she said, clutching the journal tightly, "but I think we're about to find out." Noah placed a hand on Luna's head, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "She's leading us to something," he said with quiet certainty, "and I think we have to follow her." Emily nodded, her grip on the journal tightening. With Luna at the lead, they continued down the shadowed path, unaware of the revelation. The walk back to the house was silent, save for the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. Luna stayed close to Noah's side, her golden fur brushing against his wheelchair as though tethering him to an invisible thread of comfort. In Emily's hands, Rachel's journal felt heavier with each step, as if it carried the weight of secrets long buried. When they reached the living room, Emily sat at the table and carefully placed the journal before her. Daniel stood by the window, his arms crossed, watching as dusk settled over the neighborhood. Noah wheeled himself closer, his eyes locked on the book like it might disappear if he blinked. "Are you going to read it, Mom?" Noah asked softly, his voice trembling. Emily hesitated. She ran her fingers over the cracked leather cover, tracing the faded title, Rachel's Journey. Her breath caught as she opened to the first page again, the inscription staring back at her. "For Emily and Noah, when the time is right." "I don't know if I'm ready," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But Luna, sitting beside Noah, let out a soft bark, her head tilting as if to encourage her. Emily flipped to the next page, her heart pounding. The handwriting was unmistakably Rachel's, neat and precise, but with a subtle flourish that spoke of her artistic nature. The first entry began, "If you're reading this, it means Luna has done her job. She's led you to the beginning of the story I couldn't bring myself to tell. Emily, I'm sorry. I thought I had more time. But now it's up to you to finish what I started." Emily's hand flew to her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. She glanced at Noah, whose expression was a mixture of awe and fear. "Keep going," Noah urged, his voice stronger now. Emily turned the page, reading aloud. "Luna isn't just any dog. I found her shortly after I left, wandering near the cabin in the woods. I thought she was just a stray at first, but she wouldn't leave me alone. It was almost as if she understood me, knew my pain. Over time, I realized she wasn't meant for me. She was meant for you." "Me?" Noah whispered, his hand resting on Luna's head. The dog looked up at him, her warm, intelligent eyes seeming to confirm Rachel's words. Daniel stepped closer, his skepticism faltering. Why would Rachel think a dog could carry out something this planned? It doesn't make sense. Emily shook her head, still reading. "The pendant, the photograph, and the journal are only part of the truth. I had to leave them behind because the rest of the story is dangerous. If you're following Luna, it means you're ready to uncover what I couldn't face alone." Emily's voice broke, and she put the journal down, her fingers trembling. "I don't understand," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Why would Rachel leave all of this hidden? What was she so afraid of?" Noah picked up the journal, his hand steadier than hers. He turned to a page where a small map had been sketched, a trail leading deep into the woods behind their home. Marked with an X was a spot labeled the Heart of the Truth. "She wants us to go here," Noah said, pointing to the map. "Luna's leading us to this place." Daniel looked at the map, his face a mixture of frustration and concern. "Emily, this is insane. We don't know what's out there. This could be dangerous." But Emily met his gaze with a resolve he hadn't seen in years. "Rachel left this for a reason, Daniel. If there's even a chance we can find answers about her, about why she left, about Noah, then we have to go." Noah tightened his grip on the journal. "I'm ready," he said quietly but firmly. Luna barked, standing up as if to say, "Then let's go." As the night deepened, the family gathered what they needed for the journey ahead. Unaware that the truths they were about to uncover would challenge everything they thought they knew about their family and themselves. The moonlight filtered through the trees as the family followed Luna deeper into the forest. The map from Rachel's journal guided their path, but it was the dog's unwavering determination that propelled them forward. The air was cool and damp, the earthy scent of moss and fallen leaves surrounding them. Noah sat silently in his wheelchair, his hands gripping the armrests as Daniel pushed him carefully along the uneven trail. Emily carried Rachel's journal close to her chest, her eyes scanning the path ahead. Each step felt heavier, as though they were walking toward something inevitable. "Are we almost there?" Daniel asked, his voice cutting through the rustling leaves. Noah pointed ahead, his voice soft but certain. "It's close. Look, there." The trees parted to reveal a small clearing bathed in silver moonlight. At its center stood a dilapidated wooden cabin, its roof sagging under the weight of years. Ivy crept up the walls and the windows were clouded with grime. The sight of it sent a shiver down Emily's spine. "This was Rachel's," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I haven't seen it since I was a child." Luna darted forward, her golden fur gleaming in the moonlight. She paused at the cabin's door, barking sharply before looking back at the family. "She wants us to go inside," Noah said, his gaze fixed on the dog. Daniel hesitated, his hand resting on the handle of the wheelchair. "This place looks like it could collapse any second." Emily shot him a determined look. "We've come this far, Daniel. We have to see this through." Reluctantly, Daniel helped Noah to the cabin's door. Emily pushed it open, the hinges groaning loudly in protest. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of damp wood and dust. Moonlight streamed through cracks in the walls, illuminating the room in an eerie glow. The cabin was sparse, filled only with the remnants of Rachel's life. A small table sat in the corner, covered in faded papers and an oil lamp. An old chest lay near the fireplace, its lid slightly ajar. Noah's eyes were drawn to the chest. "There," he said, pointing. "That's what she wants us to find." Emily knelt beside the chest, her hands trembling as she lifted the lid. Inside was a collection of Rachel's belongings, photographs, letters, and a small cassette tape labeled "For Noah." Beside it was a silver locket engraved with the initials RM. Emily picked up the locket, her fingers brushing over the engraving. "This was hers," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. Noah reached for the cassette tape, his hands steady, despite the weight of the moment. "What do you think is on this?" Daniel stepped forward, taking the tape from Noah. "We'll need to play it to find out," he said, his voice tight with unease. "There's an old cassette player in the basement. We can listen to it at home." Emily nodded, but her gaze lingered on the photographs. One caught her eye, a picture of Rachel holding a young puppy that looked unmistakably like Luna. Written on the back were the words, "Luna, the guide." "She planned this," Emily said, her voice breaking. "She knew we would come here." Luna barked softly, as if affirming Emily's words. The family gathered the items from the chest, each of them feeling the weight of Rachel's carefully crafted trail. As they left the cabin, Luna led the way back through the forest, her pace steady and sure. Noah clutched the cassette tape tightly, his mind racing with questions. "Whatever's on this tape," he said, his voice filled with determination, "it's going to tell us everything." The family walked on, unaware of how deeply the truth would change them, and the bond that would grow stronger as they faced it together. Back home, the family gathered in the living room, the tension so thick it seemed to echo in the silence. The cassette player sat on the coffee table, a relic from years past, its buttons worn and faded. In Noah's hands, the cassette tape felt heavy, as though it carried the weight of Rachel's voice and all the secrets she had hidden. "Are we ready for this?" Daniel asked, his voice hesitant. He stood with his arms crossed, glancing between Emily and Noah. "We have to be," Emily said softly, her hand resting on Noah's shoulder. "Whatever's on this tape, Rachel wanted us to hear it." Noah placed the tape into the player, his fingers trembling slightly. With a shaky breath, he pressed play. For a moment there was only static, and then a familiar voice broke through, soft, deliberate, and filled with emotion. "Emily, Noah, if you're listening to this, it means Luna has done what I couldn't. She brought you to the truth." Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The sound of Rachel's voice, after all these years, was like a ghost emerging from the shadows. I don't know how to begin, Rachel continued, her tone heavy with regret. I left so much behind when I disappeared, and I know Emily, but I had no choice. There were things I couldn't face, things that weren't safe for Noah. Noah leaned closer, his breath shallow as Rachel's words seemed to speak directly to him. Noah, Rachel said, her voice softening, you are my son. I carried you, I loved you, and I wanted nothing more than to keep you safe. But I realized that I couldn't protect you and uncover the truth at the same time. That's why I left you with Emily and Daniel. I knew they would give you the life you deserved. The room fell silent, except for the faint hum of the tape. Tears rolled down Emily's face as she clutched the locket from the cabin, her heart breaking all over again. But there's more you need to know, Rachel continued. The pendant, the journal, the cabin, they're all pieces of a puzzle I've spent years trying to solve. I uncovered something about our family, Noah, about you. There's a reason you've always felt different. And Luna, she's not just a guide, she's the key to finding the answers. Noah's hands tightened on the armrests of his wheelchair. Different? He whispered, his voice trembling. What does she mean? Rachel's voice faltered, as if she were struggling to continue. I can't explain it all here. There's too much. But I left everything you'll need in the cabin. The journal, the map, and Luna. They'll lead you to the final piece of the story. The tape crackled for a moment, then Ray's voice was returned, softer now. Emily, I'm sorry I left. I thought I had more time. I thought I could come back and explain everything. But if you're hearing this, it means I couldn't. Please forgive me. There was a long pause, and then her final words. Noah, you're stronger than you know. Trust Luna. Trust yourself. And never stop searching for the truth. The tape clicked off, the silence in the room deafening. Noah stared at the player, his chest rising and falling as he processed the revelation. She left me because she was trying to protect me, he said, his voice barely audible. Emily knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. She loved you, Noah. She never stopped. Daniel sat down heavily, his skepticism giving way to a deep unease. What did she mean by different, and why is Luna so important? Noah looked down at Luna, who sat by his side, her golden eyes filled with an uncanny intelligence. I don't know, he said, stroking her fur. But I think we're about to find out. Emily took a deep breath, wiping her tears. There's still more in the journal and the map. We have to keep going. Noah nodded, a newfound determination shining in his eyes. Then let's finish what she started. As the family prepared for the next step in Rachel's journey, Luna wagged her tail, her gaze fixed on Noah. The secrets Rachel had hidden were beginning to unravel, but the truth still waited, buried deep and ready to change everything. The following morning, the family retraced their steps through the forest, guided by the map Rachel had left in her journal. The marked spot, the heart of the truth, loomed closer with every step. Luna led the way, her movements purposeful and calm, as if she knew this journey was as much hers as it was theirs. Noah sat silently in his wheelchair, his eyes scanning the dense forest. Emily and Daniel walked behind him, their thoughts heavy with Rachel's revelations. The woods were quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves underfoot and the soft chirping of distant birds. Finally, Luna stopped. Before them stood an ancient tree, its massive roots winding around the ground like veins. The trunk bore an inscription barely visible beneath moss and age. Emily brushed it clean, revealing words etched by hand. The truth lies here. What is this? Daniel murmured, stepping closer. Luna began digging at the base of the tree. Her paws worked furiously, scattering soil and leaves until the edge of a metal box appeared. Noah's heart raced as Daniel knelt to pull it free. The box was old and rusted, its lock brittle from years of exposure. Let's open it, Noah urged, his voice trembling with anticipation. Daniel hesitated, then used a rock to break the lock. The lid creaked open, revealing its contents. A bundle of aged documents, a small velvet pouch, and another letter addressed to Noah and Emily. Emily's hands shook as she picked up the letter and began to read aloud. If you found this, it means you followed Luna to the end. Thank you for trusting her, for trusting me. This box holds the final pieces of the story I couldn't tell you myself. She paused, her voice breaking, then continued. Noah, you've always felt different because you are. You were born with a rare condition, one I couldn't fully understand. It's not a disease, but a gift. These documents explain everything. Medical studies, genetic research, and the truth about our family's legacy. Noah's breath hitched. A gift? He whispered. Emily unfolded one of the documents, scanning its contents. Her eyes widened. This says that Rachel participated in a genetic research program before you were born. They believed she carried a rare gene, something that could enhance perception, intuition, even empathy. That's why she left, Daniel said, his voice filled with realization. She was trying to understand what this meant for Noah. Noah leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the velvet pouch. He reached for it with trembling hands and opened it. Inside was a small, glowing crystal, a deep amber color that seemed to shimmer in the light. Emily gasped. Rachel wrote about this in her journal. She said it was the key to understanding everything. Noah held the crystal tightly, feeling a strange warmth radiating from it. As he stared into its depths, flashes of images filled his mind. Rachel's face, Luna as a puppy, and the cabin in the woods. It was as if the crystal held pieces of his past he'd never known. Luna barked softly, breaking the spell. She looked at Noah, her gaze filled with a quiet understanding. She knew I'd find this, Noah said, tears streaming down his face. She knew I'd need it to understand who I am. Emily knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Rachel wanted you to see that you're special, Noah, that you're part of something bigger than any of us. Daniel, though still skeptical, nodded, and she trusted us to help you through it. The family sat in the clearing for a long moment, the weight of Rachel's sacrifice and love settling over them. Noah looked down at Luna, who wagged her tail gently. You were her guide, he said, stroking her fur, and now you're mine. Luna leaned into him, her golden eyes shining with what could only be described as pride. As they packed up the box and prepared to leave, Noah felt a newfound strength within him. The truth about Rachel, his condition, and the love that had guided him here had transformed him. He no longer felt broken or lost. As they walked back through the forest, the sunlight breaking through the canopy above, Noah turned to his parents. Rachel may be gone, he said, but she never stopped looking out for us, and I won't stop either. Emily smiled, her heart swelling with pride and love. Daniel placed a reassuring hand on Noah's shoulder, finally letting go of his doubts. And as Luna led them out of the woods, the family knew they had not only uncovered the truth, but also forged a bond stronger than ever. A bond built on love, sacrifice, and the courage to follow even the most mysterious paths. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our latest videos. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Thank you all for taking the time to watch, and see you in the next video.